Welcome back to another episode of No Ordinary Woman, where we recognize and celebrate women of all ages and all stages. I'm Fiona Briffa, and I have got the amazing Diane Spicer joining me today. Hi, Diane.
Hello, Fiona. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. The reason why I've invited Diane to talk to us today because, well, she has an amazing No Ordinary Woman story, but it's something that I think will inspire you and just also has some practical help that might help you as well. Diane has just written the book Unmasked, which is looking at all the different masks that we tend to wear. I know I have had several in my life. But Diane has had such an amazing career history. She's an Italian-American New Yorker who was in corporate New York, and she's been through some amazing stuff. So I'm just going to leave it to Diane to give us a little bit of a snapshot of her New York life, her present life, and where Unmasked came from.
Well, yeah, Fiona, you kind of summarized it perfectly. If I like to say that if you have seen the movie The Godfather and My Big Fat Greek Wedding, if you took those two movies and combined them together, that's a pretty good picture of what my family was like growing up. I was born and raised in New York.
Yeah.
And yeah, all my family is still there, and I now live here in Australia. But look, from the outside, our family was the perfect Italian-American, fun-loving family, always had big celebrations, big parties, all of that. And everyone, of my friends really envied me. They wanted to be like me, because you guys are so close. They used to say all the time, you guys are so close. And we were, and we still are. We still are. So that exists and it's real. But underneath and behind this facade, I guess, what was happening in my own life, there was a lot of trauma happening as a child growing up. I was abused for about 7 years. That abuse then led to drug and alcohol addictions, which then led to destructive relationships, which then led to on and on and on, and it goes.
Yeah.
However, I had it all masked. My own family didn't even know that that's was going on inside of me. They saw the external. They saw the American dream being fulfilled before their eyes.
Yeah.
They saw me going from, this middle class family who my mom and dad were hard workers and, really did well for themselves considering the circumstances. But, I stepped into a job in New York City and just started working my way up the corporate ladder very quickly from the age of 17. But I started wearing the family mask, because I was ashamed pretty much of my family, because we were from low to middle class, where the people that I was then working with were middle to upper class, the millionaires, the Jewish families who all had this prominence and status. And so I would hide my family from them. And then I would hide behind this corporate mask that I was very skillful and I was very quick to learn things. But I also started doing things that I knew were not who I really was, and so that all leads to other things. And then this religious mask too. I mean, I was raised in a Catholic family, but the mask was, I will go to church on Sunday, but then Monday I'll be snorting cocaine or sleeping around or doing whatever I was doing, and then go to confession, and then that would be okay, So I added religion to my
right.
So the book really deals with, and my story really deals with, these invisible masks, the corporate mask, the religious mask, and the family mask. Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? And I don't think I've ever spoken to anybody that hasn't mentioned having to be one person to this group and then another person, and kind of having an identity crisis. Because I know myself, I had my own identity crisis. I'm like, actually, who am I? I'm this person to grandma, I'm this person at work, I'm this person to my parents. And then I was just this whole other person in a completely different setting. And I think it's something that we all really go through. And I think you mentioned the key word being ashamed of certain things, which is why we cover it up. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Very true. And it's the expectations that we have of ourselves, but it's also stepping into a platform, say a new job or something, and it's the expectations that everybody else has for you.
Yeah.
And how do we set boundaries? How do we present ourselves for who we are, not for who you need me to be?
Yeah.
And I know I was like a bit of a chameleon in my 20s. I describe it that way because if I didn't even know what I really liked. I didn't know what my favorite thing was,
Yeah.
or what I liked or disliked, because in that codependent state that I was in,
Yeah.
it was, Fiona, if you like Chinese food, I love Chinese food.
Yeah. I want you to
And I
like.
would choke on it because I didn't really like it. But, I did it because you liked it and I wanted your approval.
Yeah.
And it becomes this way of living, and it is destructive, and it actually sucks the true life of who you are out of you.
I was just going to say that's a life-sucking cycle, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
I do, and it doesn't necessarily have to even start that way. I know I started life out knowing exactly who I was and exactly what I wanted, and I went for it. Like when I was in school, and all I wanted to do was become a hairdresser, and I went for it, and I didn't let anything stand in my way. But having life chip away at me and my self-confidence and my self-worth through some bad experiences and bad relationships, I eventually started to do exactly that and look at, I lost my identity. So it can be something that happens even later on, isn't it?
Sure, it can, and it's I think the more you wear the masks, the thicker it gets. Let's say, yeah. So you start to believe the lies, and then you're living a lie, and then you have to lie.
Yeah.
So it's like this progressive step. But what happened for me is that, now I had all these masks on. I was in my 20s, early 30s. And that mask begins to crumble because we're not created to wear those masks.
Yeah.
We're created to live in authenticity, with integrity. And if you believe in God, we're called to live a godly life.
Yeah.
And it's not because we're supposed to be something or religious.
Yeah.
It's because God knew when he created us that is a much healthier way to live.
Just be you.
Be
Like
who I created you to be. Yeah. And, if you look even right from the very beginning of Adam and Eve, they were living the ideal life. They were living the life that God intended for every human being to live. But because they didn't accept who they were, they began to challenge what God was saying. They began to decide, well, did he really say that? And they began to believe the voice of the serpent. They sinned, and then what was the first thing they did? They hid from God.
Yeah, because they were ashamed.
They were ashamed.
We've been ashamed ever since for some reason,
and that's it.
So it's kind of frustrating because we're all built with an amazing set of attributes to be the perfect version of ourselves. And I mean, this is me. Everything that I live and breathe is all about self-awareness and identity. But even I, and have in the past lost that identity. What is it that makes us want to please other people so much that we change ourselves, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that I have really wrestled with over the years myself. I think it comes down to a mindset. It's a mindset that believes I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
It's a mindset or a belief system that somewhere along the line, I need your approval to be someone or to fit into your idea of who I should be. And look, when you can identify that, and when you could become more aware of that mindset, and you break that mindset and you say, no, I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to be me with all of the excellence, with all of the skill, with all of, it's not minimizing me. It's just presenting me for all that I am. There is so much freedom in that. It's unbelievable. And I remember just being so amazed really at the freedom and thinking, why didn't I do this before?
Yes.
This is just, what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly.
To myself. And then you realize I've been doing this to myself the whole time, because
Yes.
nobody can make me
Yeah.
belittle myself, or
Yeah.
it's really what we do to ourselves. We're our own worst enemy sometimes. Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily expectations of other people. It's what we think their expectations are of us.
Very true.
And even just as you were answering that question, you realize that every single one of us has a different source for that need for approval. So it could have come from hurt as a child. It could come from abandonment. It could come from being picked on at primary school. It can come from so many different places that creates that disempowering belief in our little brains, right back from when we're kids. It makes us start needing that approval. So therefore we perform for it. And then when you get older, you realize that you didn't really have to perform for it at all. I'm a big fan of the saying, when you're in your 20s, you worry about what people think of you. When you're in your 30s, you realize, you don't care what people think of you. And when you're in your 40s, you realize no one was ever thinking of you in the first place. Because they were too busy thinking the same thing, right?
That's so true.
So we go to so much effort to try and show up and get approval from other people and create ourselves in whatever image we think they want us in, that we forget who we are, and we dishonor. And I think that's where a lot of, I believe that's where a lot of mental health issues come from, because we're just uncomfortable in our own skin, and we're using up all of our energy trying to be something that everybody else wants to be. But if we stand in our truth, like you said, there's where the freedom comes from. And just go, like, I am just me. And if you like me, okay, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. Your tastes just aren't suited to me. That's all.
That's it. That's it. I love the way the Bible talks about us being a part of the body. So it's like, we're a part of the body, and Jesus is the head. So find out which part of the body you are. And it even goes on to say, the eye would never say to the foot, I don't need you, or so it's kind of like when you think about our lives that way, that I could be just the pinky, and you're the thumb, or the knee or something, and I know it sounds silly, but there's so much wisdom in that, because there's no competition.
No.
Because we need each other. So as I step into who I am, it's actually giving you permission to step into who you are. There's no competition. It's like, no, we're all part of the one body, but we each have a different function. We each have a different place, a different position,
different
to be.
Skills, different strengths, different weights.
Exactly.
Personality types.
Yeah. And I mean, so that biblical principle really opposes the worldly system that we live in. In the Western society, it's more about, you got to work your way to the top. You've got to get to be that top position, and you knock out whoever is in your way. And it's, I'm at the top, you're at the bottom. It's that kind of a level mentality. And where biblically it's completely the opposite.
You just be you. And this is where I think, I honestly believe that sort of starting to unravel that old belief system of, you've got to, it's even like, we've got to be better than that person. Men have got to be like, women are competing against men. Men are competing against women. Women are competing against women. And it's like, no, you only have to compete against you. Be a better you tomorrow than you were today. That's your only competition.
That's exactly right.
And raise each other up with us to be our best selves. If we all can stand in our own truth, really, it's be your best self, because competing against somebody else and trying to compare yourself to somebody else is like comparing an apple with an orange, really, isn't it?
Exactly. And having an orange try to act and live like an apple. It's frustrating. And that's where, a lot of mental health issues actually stem from that exact thing.
I believe that very strongly.
And I think the world has tried to define people since the beginning of time, really. The systems, the way it should be, the way if you want to be successful, this is 7 steps to success. And if you want to heal from addictions, 12 steps for this and 5 steps for that. And you know, and yes, there's value in that,
Yes.
but underlying it is the root of who am I?
Yeah.
It's my identity.
Yeah.
Because you can have all the head knowledge you want about religion, about a business, about family.
Yeah.
You have all the knowledge.
Yeah.
But if your heart's not right,
Yeah. If you don't
it
know who
means
you are.
nothing. It means nothing. It
Yeah.
all comes crumbling down and it doesn't last.
Yeah.
So finding your identity and really accepting the definition that God gave me. This is who you are, Diane.
Be me.
Yes, you were abused as a child. Yes, you've done some incredible, you know, you've had an incredible past with sleeping around and drugs and alcohol and all of that. He doesn't say that didn't exist and just hide it and cover it.
Yeah.
He says, I'm going to redeem it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take all that brokenness and put it back together in my way.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that look like? It looks like me.
Yeah.
It looks like accepting and, you know, painfully accepting, I have to say, painfully accepting that what happened to me, and that I had to forgive, and that I had to see that forgiveness as the very core of what was hindering me from being me. Unforgiveness was just such a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
And stepping into that place, it took a long time for me to forgive the man who sexually abused me for 7 years. I mean, how do you do that? How do you even think about doing that?
Yeah.
And I go into more detail about that in the book, how I got to that place.
Yeah.
And it certainly is not a, oh, well, yeah, you know, call them up and say, you know, I forgive you.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. And people think that that's forgiveness. But when you truly find out what forgiveness is and you walk in it, it's just, it's life-changing. It really does, because it's not about the other person.
Yeah, it's about you.
It's about me. It was about me becoming free from his hook. So
yeah. And that then becomes, I guess, one of the masks you can take off, because the mask is probably excuse me,
that's right,
trying to hide that part of your past from you as well as other people.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to be that, you know, that broken little girl, but she was here. You know, and I was carrying her around behind this, you know, very successful corporate woman, you know, but she was always there dragging me down and
drugs and alcohol can help shut her up.
Exactly. And the self-sabotage always, you know, and incredible opportunities were before me. But that little girl was, you know, screaming loud and, you know, don't go there, you'll get hurt again, you know. But what corporate executive doesn't take risks, you know? What leader doesn't take risks? You have to take risks. You have to trust in God, and you have to trust in the places that he brings you, and start stepping out and find your voice, find your true voice, instead of the, you know, the whinging little voice. You have to find the truth of who you are and speak from that voice. So it's been an incredible journey.
Wow, it really, I'm so grateful that you've come to share that. And I love that we're allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, and your story and your honesty and that vulnerability, because the more of us that can sit here and say, yes, this has been part of my journey, and not have it covered up in this little array of perfection, because not one of us is perfect, and it's a really unrealistic expectation. If we can all take off our masks and just be who we are, then I think it allows us to accept each other, and maybe even not even have a need to be accepted. Like, I don't need to be accepted by you, because I accept myself. And like you said, if you have a faith, God accepts me. God, I love, somebody once said, and I can't remember who it was, but somebody once said, God knew exactly everything that you were going to do wrong in your life, and he made you anyway. So do you think he's as bothered by what you've done as you are?
That's right. That's right.
He's just concerned with what he can do from here. But I want to just highlight this book. I know it's probably showing up backwards, but I'm going to leave a link down below to Diane's website and to her book, Unmasked. I think the remarkable true story of transformation and redemption. And if you've got a mask that you would like to get rid of, maybe this is the book for you. But and also just to, if you wanted to learn more about Diane and her story. But wow, thank you so much for sharing that and just being so honest and open.
That's all right. Thank you for having me, Fiona. And I just want to encourage your listeners to, there's nothing that you've done and there's nothing in your past that can't be redeemed. Yeah. Nothing. I remember hearing that about 25 years ago and I totally didn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was hard to believe. It was hard to hear.
Yep.
And it was hard to even think about the change that would have to take place in order for me to be free. Yeah. But I just want to encourage you, it's a lot easier than you think.
Yes.
And it's possible. There's nothing that's too hard for God to not step in and turn around completely.
I absolutely agree with you. And having been there myself as well, thinking, how do I get my way out of this one? Let's look back and go, wow. Yeah. Yes, your past does not define you. I've said it before. You've all heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. Your past does not define you. It's your heart, what you do from this day forward. We all take off our masks. We all accept each other and include each other and just bring in that unconditional love for each other so that we no longer feel the need to wear these masks and to try and fit in or try and seek approval. You are okay just as you are. That's our message for you, isn't it, Diane?
It is. And your best is yet to come.
Oh, so your best is
go for it.
Yet to come.
Your best is yet to come. So live life to the full.
Yep, 100%. All right. Well, thank you so much, Diane. I'll leave a link to Diane's website and her book below. And thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to catching you again for another episode of No Ordinary Woman. Bye for now.
Bye.